今日の今日まで彼女が訪れることが伏せられていた以上。
Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, episode 2. The 19th guest has arrived, that being Beatrice. She pretty much self-inserted herself into the story to try and prove to Battler that, yes, you know, she did everything, that, you know, witches are real, she's real, whatever she's trying to accomplish here. But obviously that's going to shift the story around a little bit here as the adults that are trying to, you know, get together and talk about, you know, let's get some money for this inheritance deal from Kraus. Yeah, this is a whole new wrench that's been thrown into the gears that are spinning for that plan. So let's see what they come up with here, because now that they're, you know, talking about how there's a mysterious person that they've never met before that, you know, may most definitely get in the way of their plans, well, they're starting to panic.
彼女は私たちに何らかのサプライズを与える目的があった。それが財産なのか、親族としての認知なのかは分かりかねるわ。でも今日の今日まで訪れることを伏せていたということは、
Oh yeah, it was a secret for me too.
事前に知らせることで、
そういうものを持ってきたと仮定して、それが揺るぎないもので盤石な証拠だというなら。
そうね。
Oh, she's coming in with something a little different.
むしろ疑う立場にある私たちに弁護士でも鑑定士でも連れてこさせて、グーの音も出ないくらいに事実を突きつけるべきなのよ。それができるならね。
つまり奇襲狙いという時点で敵は真正面からの正攻法では勝てんちゅうことを意味するわけやな。
Oh, they can win from any side, honestly.
道理や。
相当のサプライズが突きつけられると予想されるわね。
Oh, it'll be pretty direct.
おそらく向こうはそのインパクトだけでこちらを圧倒できるつもりでいる。しかしその何かは相当のインパクトを伴いながらも絶対ではない。
つまりそこがこちらのつけ込む余地というわけね。
There is nothing anybody here can do about anything.
あんたはほんま。
相手の思考を読めたとはとても言えないわ。
いいや、相変わらずなかなかのもんだぜ。こちらに攻める余地があると分かれば余裕も変わってくるってもんだ。
Yeah, that confidence is really going to bite them in the
わ
ass.
からないのは
They're going to be so
彼女と
disappointed
ク
here
ラウス兄
shortly.
さんの関係ね。クラウス兄さんにとってもサプライズなのか、それとも彼女を呼んだのは他でもないクラウス兄さん自身なのか。
Oh, the rug's going to be pulled from under his feet too.
もし後者だったなら、
血縁証明でも示してみせるかもしれんで、お父さんの血が流れてることが例えば母子手帳でも示されたらどうにもならん。
Oh, she'll show something. She will display something that will just blow everybody away, and, well, there's nothing that they can do. You know, lawyer up all you want.
証明物なんかいくらでも偽装を疑える。仮にそれが本物だったとしても、当人が本人だと証明するには病院沙汰にしなきゃならん。少なくとも今のロッケン島でそれを証明することは不可能だ。
その通りね。つまりこういうことよ。今のロッケン島では何が示されても真実だと受け入れることはできない。
That's probably why they thought that the letter that they had, you know, received in episode 1 was just a bunch of bullshit. Like, well, yeah, I mean, given the circumstances, who would believe that? But it definitely got everybody a little panicky.
台風が去って
But now we have like an actual person here that's going to be saying this shit.
何も信じられないってことよ。
So how much panic will be induced this time around?
そういう
How
の
much
で揚げ足を
discourse
取
will
り
we
まくるの
have?
は姉貴の得意技だな。任せるぜ。
バカ言ってんじゃないわよ。あんたも協力するのよ。私たちにはお金がいる。それも急ぎまとまった額が。私たちは運命共同体よ。こんなところでひょっこり現れた謎の女に遺産の当てをぶち壊されてたまるもんですか。
Rudolph and Ava always formed a united front as siblings at times like this. Sickened by the idea that their own inheritance might be snatched away by an outsider, Kyrie had noticed how indomitable they'd looked, shook her head slightly, and gave a small sigh as she gazed out the window. Money talks, doesn't it? Money really is such a deciding factor in how everybody goes about their lives and how they feel. Outside, it was still raining heavily, and everything was gray, having lost all vibrance. The lush garden that the sun had shone on earlier now felt like a lie. For some reason, the words Ava said a second ago kept repeating in Kirie's head. So in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now on Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. Well, I've been saying that for a while, but there was an odd nuance to those words, and at that moment the island was closed off by the typhoon and isolated. They had access to no public institutions and no hospital. So on this island, no matter what manner of proof related to the outside world was shown, it would always be possible to call it a lie. It would be impossible to prove that something was the truth. Again, a pretty good parallel to episode 1, just a different way that we're seeing it here. Now that they were isolated from the outside, all truths whose proof lay in the outside world would be called lies. So does that mean that right now on this Rokkenjima, no truth exists at all? Does it mean that everything will now be ruled by lies alone? It almost gives the illusion that we have left the human world of truth and have been shut away inside another world, one of lies. That is actually a really good way of putting it. Kirie had remembered that woman's appearance one more time. She remembered both what she had looked like and the witch of the portrait. On this island, which had been cut off from the world of humans and shut away in the world of non-humans, a non-human being has come to visit. Kirie couldn't think of the smile that had appeared on the woman's face as anything other than a portent of misfortune. I get the feeling my chessboard thinking's missed a vital premise, one that'll be necessary to understand that misfortune-bearing smile. Yes, that smile made me feel as though someone inhuman was mocking me. I have based my reasoning on the assumption that our opponent is a human like us. However, just like this island is now, she may be a being that isn't human, and human values may not matter to her. We're on the right track there. If that's true, all of our reasoning is useless. For what reason has the witch been invited here today? Only one thing is certain. Now in this instant, she's staying somewhere in this vast mansion. I can't wait for whatever tomfoolery and political bullshit is about to go down in this family. That's gonna get nuttier than episode 1, I'm sure.
マリア、今日のお昼にお外で私たち会ったわよね。
We darn sure did.
女の人に。あれは誰？
おお、何度も言ってる。ベアトリーチェ。
マリアは以前にベアトリーチェと会ったことがあるの？
It's hard to, truly fathom things that shouldn't be making any
毎
sense.
年会ってる。
毎年？このロッケン島のお屋敷で？
The fuck is this music?
おお、
じゃわからないでしょ。そうなの？いつから会ってるの？何年前から？
わかんない。
わからない？どうして？去年？一昨年？
もっと前から。
Rosa was astonished. Only the Ushiromiya family mansion existed on this island, so there couldn't have been any humans other than themselves here. And yet Maria said that she had been meeting with this suspicious woman every year during the family conference. If what Maria said was the truth, then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. That's insane. Is Maria saying that eerie woman was at the family conference every year, and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met the woman herself a couple of hours ago in the rose garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion that told her not to accept that existence. What in the world did I meet with earlier today in the rose garden as the typhoon grew near and the winds roared?
マリ、あなたは 毎年彼女と会ってると言ったわね。会って何をしてるの？
お歌を歌ったり、魔法を習ったり、魔法陣の書き方も習うの。
Yeah, she has a vast amount of knowledge when it comes to magic circles and the cult.
そう。
And who knows what else.
それはすごいわね。マリアがよく自由帳に落書きじゃない、魔法陣を書いたりしてるわよね。それも彼女に教えてもらったの。
ベアトリーチェにね、お手本書いてもらうの。ほらほら、見て見て。
Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then she drew out a single notebook and began opening to that page. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were literally scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And while it might sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy.
ほらこれ、ベアトリーチェが書いてくれた。
Yeah, we've seen that one before, and that one, and that one, and of course that one very recently. Each one of the pages in the group Maria opened to had an eerie magic circle. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa could see that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. By itself, it wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had written it, but it was enough for Rosa to be sure that it was someone older than Maria. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person on this Rokkenjima that she herself hadn't known existed until now. And this person had come to the family conference every year to play with Maria.
マリア、その魔女のベアトリーチェはここに住んでいるの？
Yeah, in a sort of way.
それとも私たちのように島の外に住んでいるの？
ベアトリーチェはロッケン島の魔女だから、この島に住んでる。
じゃあ親族会議のない日にもこの島にいる？じゃわからないでしょ。
Just assume that it means yes.
そうなの。
I don't know why she does it either, but you don't have to get all angry. What in the... I can't believe it. I can't believe it. How long has this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island, passing the time in the mansion, in the rose garden. And even so, I never encountered a witch like that. Right? Well, what do you know? Oh, she's gonna be doubting her own past, her own memories.
ママ、どうしたの？ママ。
頭が痛い。
Because as we've heard, especially throughout all of episode 1, and most definitely through Maria, is that the witch has always been here. You know, the witch controls or is in charge of the island, or at least the exterior of it. And it's like a flip-flop of the master of this here mansion. You know, during the day it's Kinzo, during the night it's Beatrice. I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. When I was young, I was terrified of the witch, unlike Maria. Well, yeah, they had the story of the witch as a bit of like a scary story to keep the kids in check. So for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for terror. Surely my fear from those days... What the fuck, that synonym? Jesus Christ. Surely my fear from those days has been revived by the appearance of a woman going by that name. She can't be a witch. She's obviously a human, calling herself Beatrice, right? You guys can laugh at me for that one. That's right. That witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled the Western envelope out of her pocket. Yeah, this, sort of brings back the whole question of, okay, so that's literally the Ushiromiya, crest and everything. This is, the head's, envelope and stamp. You can only really get that all from Kinzo. So this had to have been through Kinzo. Yet here we are with all of it as if it was from Kinzo. But as we saw in episode 1, that could not have happened. But there was that one event where he did throw away his ring, which was used to make that stamp. It was one of the envelopes that bore the Ushiromiya family crest, which Kinzo had used for his personal letters. And its red sealing wax had even been sealed by the head's ring, which Kinzo held. And I'm pretty sure he still holds it, which meant this envelope belonged to the Ushiromiya family head. In other words, it was from father. Why was a woman calling herself Beatrice holding it, and why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? I'm pretty sure it's what we had read before in episode 1. A sense of uncertainty had gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might let loose incredible misfortune. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up too, urging her to find out what was written inside before the other siblings could. Using common sense, one might guess that it contained a huge decision somehow related to father's inheritance. Yeah, something along those lines. Actually, since she had received it from a woman who called herself Beatrice, there simply had to be some connection. Does it mean this person wants not just the 4, but a total of 5 people to be included in the inheritance? Now, everybody needs to know what's going down. I need a large sum of money, and I can't wait long. I feel like such a sinful daughter for discussing father's inheritance while he's still alive. But this is no time to spout off cheap ideals. And I've even colluded with Rudolf Nissan and Eva Nissan in order to get some money out of Kraus Nissan. Coming from that position, I can't help but see the appearance of the witch as a sign of approaching misfortune. What could be written in here? I'm sure it's something frightening. Shall I read it secretly myself first? I wouldn't. I think that'd be a terrible idea. The witch requested that it be read at the dinner table, with everyone gathered. But if that's what she wanted, why couldn't she just read it aloud herself at dinner? Why did she go to all the trouble of entrusting it to me? Simply put, is it because she doesn't mind if I read it secretly beforehand? It would be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that it would mean breaking my promise, but this is no longer the time for cheap ideals. Depending on the contents, I should probably discuss it with Eva Nissan and Rudolf Nissan too. They're always really good thinkers when it comes to things, when it comes to this kind of thing, excuse me. When I gulped and put my hand to the red sealing wax, uh-oh. Something suddenly pulled on my sleeve and I let out a small scream. Oh, there's that lovely look on your face.
驚かせないで。何？
ダメ。
And Maria's expression was the same portent of misfortune, that she had felt from that witch, and it sent a tingle up her spine.
ベアトリーチェはママに、その手紙は晩餐で読みなさいって言った。魔女の約束は破っちゃダメだよ。
違うわよ。ちょっと封筒を見ただけじゃない。約束は守るわよ。ママもいつもマリアに約束は守りなさいって言ってるもんね。
Yeah, that's not how promises go, Rosa.
ママももちろん約束は守るわよ。
ママはいい子。
Uh-huh. Yeah, definitely.
その笑い方、可愛くないからやめなさい。そういえば、マリアも封筒をもらったわよね。
Yeah, she did. I was thinking about that whenever Rosa was having her inner battle of whether or not to open this thing. But what was that about? I'm assuming it's more on a personal, like an actual invitation to the Golden Land or whatever. And maybe she had gotten that as well back in episode 1, in addition to the letter that she read out loud at dinner. Which I'm assuming is now what Rosa has.
開けてない。ベアトリーチェは開ける時が来るまで開けちゃダメって言った。だから大事に持ってる。
そう。マリアはベアトリーチェの言うことはちゃんと聞くのね。
マリアはベアトリーチェの弟子だから、お師匠の言うことはちゃんと聞くの。
Disciple, huh? I mean, based on everything that Maria has told us about, them spending, time together every year, learning magic circles and who knows what else. Yeah, that kind of fits the bill, doesn't it? But it does beg the question, what are Beatrice's plans with Maria specifically? Because I do recall the ending of the credits for episode 1 and the, I guess what I had read at the very end where Maria had like left a message or whatever, and that message was kind of the opposite of what you would expect from Maria. So it's like, what happens? What happened? Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the glint of someone that wasn't her. If Rosa broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely learn of it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple. Maria was in contact with the witch. Smart.
ママは約束を守るわ。だから安心するようベアトリーチェに言ってね。
伝える。
ねえマリア、ベアトリーチェとお話をしたいんだけど、どうすれば会えるのかしら。
知らない。ベアトリーチェはとても気まぐれだから、いつも突然姿を現すの。
Yeah, she do be doing that.
マリアからは会う方法を知らない。でもね、いつもマリアのことを見てるの。
Yeah, you know, I remember that CG back in episode 1. That it was like a close-up on Maria's face. There was a silhouette in her eyes. And I'm sure that's, you know, telling us, yeah, there's somebody else in there or something else in there or some sort of attachment.
だからマリアが困っていると、後できっと助けてくれるの。きっとね、姿を消してマリアの近くに隠れてるんだよ。
その笑いをやめなさいといつも言ってるでしょ。
Uh-oh. Rosa reflexively hit Maria on the head. That put a stop to Maria's laughing, but it wasn't able to erase the color that had risen to those eyes, a color that seemed to bear a portent of misfortune. Rosa swore. She swore that at least until they left this island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter any longer. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. And by that I mean, that's never going to fucking happen. Is it time to eat yet? I really want to know the contents of these letters. I'm very curious to know what we got going on with, I at least want to make sure that the letter that Rosa had received is the same from episode 1, or at least similar. Ever since they had met Maria at the airport, she had been romping around, chatting about Halloween the whole time. But maybe she had cut loose a little too much, acting a little too boisterous on the plane, on the boat, and during lunch, because Rosa had cautioned her several times. At times like that, Aunt Rosa tended not to scold her much in front of people. More often, she would take Maria aside and scold her alone. So since Maria had been called off somewhere, they figured she must be getting scolded. When they looked at the clock, they realized it was almost 6 o'clock. Of course, they couldn't imagine she'd been getting scolded all this time. No, she's just been having a grand old day, you know, talking with the witch and trying to explain shit to her mother about, you know, the witch. Maybe it was time for some anime that she watched every week to start. She probably hadn't left the mansion's parlor.
ひょっとすると、バトラ様がお目覚めになって、一緒に遊ばれているのかもしれませんね。
マリアちゃんにとって、バトラ君は新しい友達のような感じだったろうからね。
Yeah, and it's actually really good in this episode. So far, there hasn't been this whole thing that started up with Battler pretty much telling Maria, yeah, that Beatrice shit, nah, fuck that, that's false. I mean, it is coming eventually.
ハロウィンごっこをするのがきっととても楽しかったんだよ。
バトラもずいぶんはしゃいでたな。あいつ、図体はでかくなったってのに、中身は昔から全然変わらねえぜ。
Hey, you know he's a kid at heart.
身の程をわきまえておりませんでしたもので、いろいろと失礼いたしました。
Damn, what happened back then?
いいよ、そんな礼儀云々は。仕事中はともかく、こうして休み時間に過ごす時の僕らは、あの頃から変わらない。仲良しで居続けたいね。
Yeah, more so than ever, right?
そうだぜ。使用人のシャノンとオフの時の作用は使い分けていいだろう。奴隷じゃないんだぜ。 使用人の仕事をしてるだけじゃないかよ。私はシャノンとは、サヨとは一番古い友人だと思ってるぜ。
Yeah, I wish you would actually have that mindset a lot more often here and there, but I get it. This is a very strict environment. This is also the 80s and also definitely not America, so I can't even like make a comparison there. But times are different in this situation, and this whole environment is completely different altogether. Hard to say how a person should really be feeling. It seemed that Shannon understood the hidden meaning behind Jessica's words. After all, she had heard a bit about Jessica and Conan's history from both of them. Ah, come on, George. Apparently George had heard something of that history too. He walked towards the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky.
カノン君はまだ幼いのに考え方が少し背伸びしてるところがあると思うんです。
いや、もうよしてくれよ。まあ私も雰囲気に流されてたところはあったと思うしさ。まあシャノンたちのことを見てちょっと羨ましいとか思って気がせいていたところもあったかもしれねえな。
Yeah, definitely.
私のことなんかどうでもいいだろ。それよりジョージ兄さんたちの方はどういう感じなんだよ。
Damn, just flat out
だいぶいい
asking.
感じなんだろ。
どうなんでしょう。
とてもいい感じだよ。
Shannon was lost for words, her face red, while George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it easy to see that their relationship was proceeding so perfectly, it would make anyone envious. Yep, and you know, there's our perfect example. Jessica's been jealous this entire time, envious of the progress that they're making, you know, whether it be slow or fast or whatever. I mean, she was always in the loop.
ってことはシャノンもそのうち寿退社ってわけなんだ。
どうなんでしょう。私には
どうなんだろうね。僕にもわからないね。
George laughed teasingly as though pressing Shannon for an answer. It was probably the way they usually flirted when they were alone. Jessica could only smile bitterly and say, yes, yes, thank you, that's enough. No, I get you.
僕には夢がある。
Oh, you do, George.
それは一国一城の主になりたいというビジネス的な野望だけじゃない。生涯を共にできる伴侶と幸せな家族を築きたいという夢もある。
Ooh, now that's ambitious.
子供は最低でも2人欲しいとか。
Ooh, even more ambitious.
家族で一緒にできるスポーツをしたいねとか。他にもいろいろ。そんな話をよくシャノンとはするよ。こんなことを話すといつもシャノンには気が早いですねと笑われるんだけど、僕はこの年のうちからもうなぜか落ち着いた老後のことを考えてしまうんだよ。元気に成長した子供たちと駆け回る孫たちと。
Damn.
そういうものに囲まれ
To
て
have money, be in
いつま
love.
でもシャノンと2人ゆっくりと余生を送れたらなって。
And most importantly, to have money.
そりゃ確かに気の早い話だぜ。
Now, that's totally fine. I think when you really like somebody, it is totally understandable to think that way. I mean, you know what? It is a little embarrassing to admit it, but I had wondered, you know, how it would be, you know, staying in a relationship longer with somebody that I was with back then, seeing how things would progress, how our families would maybe get to meet each other and mingle a little bit. You start to think about those sort of things, and I think that's completely natural. Next step is marriage. Next step is, you know, having kids, and, you know, that lovely financial trouble, especially in current day America. Goddamn. But no, I think that's totally natural and fully understandable. But obviously, you need to be deep into a relationship to really have those feelings. Obviously, if you're on the outside, like Jessica, and most definitely inexperienced, then yeah, it's going to seem really odd, and what she's saying here makes a whole lot of sense.
でもなんていうのか、ジョージ兄さんらしい話だな。
And yes, it also does sound very much like a George thing to say.
そんな家族に
I
囲
will
ま
have
れた
to
ら
admit.
さぞ素敵でしょうね。私が思い描いていた理想の家族もそんな感じだったと思います。
To Shannon, who had been raised in an orphanage, that harmonious image of a family was probably something to be yearned for. And George, who had made an absolute promise to grant that wish for her, may truly have been a fitting person for her to spend her life with. To Jessica, Shannon was a precious friend. George was surely the one most fit to entrust that friend's future to.
まあ水を差すわけじゃねえけど、秀吉おじさんはともかくエヴァおばさんとかどうなわけ？
Oh man, yeah, we heard a little bit from Ava here in this one.
説得は大変じゃないの？
Now she's the one that's not really the biggest of the fans here.
そんなことは誰も気にする必要はないよ。僕が誰を伴侶に選ぶかは誰にもはばかられない。
I respect it, George. I really do.
シャノンは僕が幸せにする。それに誰の許可が？
Now that is big talk. I'd like to see him go through with it though.
ジョージ兄さんかっこいいぜ。よくそんな恥ずかしいセリフを堂々と。昔の兄さんはそういうキャラじゃなかったと思ったんだけどな。
男子3日合わざれば刮目して待つべし。さあ僕だって成長する。シャノンを幸せにするために僕はもっともっと勉強してふさわしい男に成長するつもりだよ。
Maybe even George realized how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red, and he scratched his head.
っていうかよ、私はお邪魔虫なんじゃないかって気がしてきたぜ。席を外した方がいいか？
I was gonna throw out that I'm pretty sure she is a full-on third wheel here. As Jessica rose with a forced smile from the bed that she had been sitting on, the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what this could be about, Shannon looked at the clock and jumped. Apparently, she'd spent too much time on her break.
すみません。私、お勤めの時間を忘れておりました。これで失礼します。
At the same time Jessica picked up the phone, Shannon began dashing out of the room.
シャノン、またいつもの時間にいつもの場所で。
You too.
はい。失礼します。
もしもし、ジェシカです。源氏さん。はい。シャノンは今そっちに戻ってますよ。私たちが引き止めちゃったんです。叱らないでやってください。ええ。はい。
そっか、もうじき夕飯の準備の時間なんだね。
Damn, where's Battler at? Is he still sleeping on the floor back at the fucking parlor? Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen. Preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates lined up there was 19. That was one more than should have been set up for the annual family conference.
納得できません。どうして私が直接お届けに上がってはならないのですか?
Goda-san flared up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was spitting steam. The master enjoyed eating alone in his study, so his food needed to be served in that room. However, that was something that always happened. Of course, Goda-san would want to set the table for the master with his own hands, since he had put his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master had imposed a strict rule that none but the servants bearing the golden crest enter his study. Oh yeah, I don't think Goda has the golden crest. He's still so new of a servant that he doesn't, I guess he's not as trusted? So while Goda-san would be able to greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking inside. Goda-san was always irritated by this. Of course, he was a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he had piled up plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and he was quite confident that he'd be able to perform in front of Kinzo in a manner that would do him no disservice. And yet, simply because he was not permitted to wear the golden eagle, he still hadn't been blessed with this honor. Hello there, Kumasawa. He does seem like a very fucking prideful person. I can understand that he does feel a little, twisted by this, a little hurt, maybe. But yeah, tis the rules, I suppose.
今夜も再びそれを蒸し返しているのかというと、そうではありません。今夜は親方様の他にも お部屋まで食事を運んでもらいたいという方がおられるからです。
Our 19th individual.
その人物は非常に稀な賓客らしく、当主である親方様と同格の扱いをするようにきつく厳命されておりました。郷田さんはこの賓客にぜひ自らの手で配膳してポイントを稼ぎたかったに違いありません。
I think he'll feel better like not doing that actually. I
虚栄心
feel
の
like
お
he'll
強い
walk
方
away with
で
some
ございま
scars
す
if he
から
actually went up there.
親方様に配膳する資格はなくてもという再び資格がないと咎められ、郷田さんの堪忍袋の緒が切れてしまったのでございます。
How many years do you need to work here consistently in order to be able to have the crest on your uniform? Or your outfit in
大
general?
分はしや郷田さん。私は物陰からこうして見守るしかないのでございます。
Because I don't think I've seen it on Kumasawa, but I just never really noticed.
熊沢さん、油を売っている暇があったら食堂の準備をしてきてください。テーブルクロスは大丈夫ですか？
What the fuck? What the hell's this pose?
これは失礼を。
When it became her turn to bear his wrath, Kumasawa slid out into the hall.
正直に申し上げて、お客様に接する基礎ができていないのです。
Yeah, nice. Just say that all right in front of her. Goda spoke bluntly, even though Shunun was standing right there in the kitchen. Shunun was the one whom Genji had ordered to carry dinner to Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted to wear the Golden Eagle, Shunun certainly was the second highest in rank, which is interesting when you think about it, but if the highest ranked Genji went to set the table in Kinzo's room, then it fell to Shunun to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goda's pride was always horribly injured by this ranking system. At times like this, he'd speak out bluntly and rudely against Shunun and Kanun. Goda kept raising examples of each of Shunun's failures until now, making a ruckus about how she couldn't do this, or was terrible at that. Shunun, who listened to this with her head hung in shame, heard Kanun's voice from behind her. Kanun had been leaning against the wall in the hallway, near the kitchen entrance, a blind spot from the inside, and had been listening to all of this. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly his way. Yeah, I remember in episode 1, there's definitely some fucking, there's some daggers that are being flown around here. Not flown, but more so thrown towards each other. Not everybody really likes each other here. I mean, I think there's really good respect all around for Genji. Goda, I think, because, again, it is a ranking system, and honestly, this isn't really the only place that you would probably see this. If you are in a higher ranked position, let's say you're older, more experienced or whatever, but you have somebody older than you that's coming in, they have a lot of experience, but they're going to work a position underneath you, and they're also aged older than you, it does become a little awkward, but it's still the, you know, the same ladder system as if it was for anybody else that filled that position, you know? But it is a little weird. So I can definitely understand the position that Goda is in. Kumasawa, I don't really know what to think of her. I mean, I want to say everybody really likes her, but she's a comer and a goer here, you know? She quits and comes back. I don't really know where the trust really lies with everybody and her. I hope that it's up there, though.
姉さんは優しいね。それより、貴賓室のお客様がベアトリーチェ様だというのは本当なの？
It is true.
昼食の配膳に行かされた時にあった。間違いなくあいつだったよ。そう、お元気そうだった？
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Kanun remembered that he and Shunun had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shunun, Beatrice was a cupid of love who had granted her magic to establish her relationship with George. Judging by the expression that rose to her face, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Kanun already knew. That witch came here with a terrifying goal in mind. The nebulous witch that only they had been able to see in the past had now revived so fully that she could walk in openly through the front door. And even have dinner carried to her. Yeah, she's got more of a physical form than ever. Once, when she had vanished from in front of Kanun, the witch said something about how her own power was still weak. So if that witch was now appearing so openly, did it mean that she had finally regained her former power? And she said something else too. She definitely said that she had sown the seeds of love, while fully aware that they would fail. And she said even more. She definitely said that the day had finally come, upon which the door to the Golden Land would be opened. Which Kanun is looking forward to. Shanun probably isn't.
あいつは親方様と何かの怪しげな儀式をし、きっと想像もできない恐ろしいことをする。それには誰も抗えない。
何の話なの？
あいつはやってきたんだ。親方様が求めた黄金鏡の扉を開き、すべてを黄金鏡に戻すために。あいつは僕に確かにそう言った。
In the past, the two of them, as furniture working for Kinzo, had been told what opening of the door to the Golden Land meant. So Shanun understood everything, without having to ask a single question. And because of that, she felt a deep despair. Something tore at Kanun's heart as he looked at the expression twisted with grief. Oh, I wonder how this conversation between those two are going to go. Especially now that she's getting a little bit more informed here of what's to come.
僕らは家具だって。人間の真似事なんかして、恋なんかするから。僕たちの役目の終わるこの日を素直に受け入れられない。い
つかこの日が訪れることを。
But now, no. Now you don't want that day to
で
come.
もいつまで経っても訪れなくて悪いのね。私が。
Damn, really?
姉さんさえ恋を覚えなかったら、僕たちはようやく訪れた今日を喜び合うはずだった。
But it's now only one of you. Kanun probably feels regrets for Shanun. He can't be fully happy either that this day has finally come, because the person that he looks up to the most, his sister, Shanun, well, she can't go with it anymore.
姉さんがくだらない未練を作ってしまったんだ。必ず去らなければならない世界なのに。
儀式は今夜始まるの。
Oh, it will.
あと、あいつは僕に言った。今夜、ジョージ様は姉さんに婚約指輪を贈るだろうって。
That was a fact, it is. George supposedly had an engagement ring hidden in his pocket today, and surely he would hand it over tonight.
あいつは姉さんとジョージ様を第二の番の生贄に使うつもりで二人の仲をくっつけたんだ。わかる？
Okay, you know what? This probably isn't like the biggest revelation, but if we're going to try and piece together events that happened in episode 1, with this supposedly being the explanation for why those events, probably occurred, then this may explain why Shanun was actually killed on the first night and not during the second day. It wasn't George and Shanun who got to die through the second twilight. It was Ava and Hideyoshi, with Shanun dying in the first set of killings. Why? Well, it's because she's now being told all of this. She's now going to put up a wall around her heart to prevent the two of them from dying, or at least one of them. And it worked. I think that's the direction that we're going in. I'm sure that whatever is going to happen tonight, up into the day, or the time, I guess, that, people start, dying, well, I do think that we're going to be seeing Shanun try to protect George, I would say.
姉さんはあいつにそそのかされた上。
そうだったの。考えたこともなかったわ。
でもあいつは言ったよ。 もし今夜その婚約指輪を受け取らなかったなら姉さんを生贄に選ばないと約束した。僕たちが揃って黄金鏡へ行ける確率はとても低いと思う。13人が生贄になる。生き残るのは5人だけ。その中に僕たち2人が入れる確率は本当に低い。
Oh yeah, that is true. That is true. So the 5 that were remaining, or that had remained in episode 1, were Maria, Battler, Jessica, George, and Natsuhi. They were the last 5 around of the 18 that were in episode 1, but they all did eventually die, or they had gone missing, if you will, with only a bit of Maria coming around, I think. At least her message came around. So, does that mean that they didn't get to go to the Golden Land? Is that how that's going?
でも姉さんだけでもその約束が得られるなら確率はもっと上がる。僕はかけたいんだ。黄金鏡には救いがある。僕たちはそこへたどり着き人間を手に入れるんだ。そして姉さんと2人で人間としての人生を歩みたいんだよ。そうすれば本当の恋だってでき。
I kind of cut that off there, but yes, true love.
かつての私たちは黄金鏡へ行けることを夢見てたね。そこへ行けばどんな願いでも叶う。私たちをこの苦しみから救ってくれる。そう信じてた。
Their reasoning for trying to be furniture is definitely making a little bit more sense. It's obviously more than just, well, we're playing a role of a servant here in a really weird area. No, it's to keep them in place, to let them know that they don't really have much going on for them anymore. At least in Kanun and Shanun's case, they are nothing but furniture, which means when it's time to go, yeah, they don't have the regrets or anything that are going to hold them back as if they were human. However, in this ceremony, only a few people would be invited to the Golden Land, chosen by fate and chance. Everyone else would lose their lives as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. Okay, so it is the last 5 that get to go to the Golden Land, is it? However, in the past, Shanun and Kanun had thought that whether they reached the Golden Land or were sacrificed, they would still be released from their duties as furniture. That meant this ceremony would definitely bring release to furniture like them, no matter what happened. Yeah, episode 1 didn't really treat them all that well, did it? Well, actually, if we take the tea party as, you know, an actual, well, it is kind of an actual, like, I don't want to say canon event, but it's something that had happened. They were there. The kids were all there. Shanun, Kanun, Battler, Jessica, George, they were all there. So were they in the Golden Land? Despite, you know, 2 of them being obvious sacrifices, I guess Maria was also there. Despite Kanun and Shanun being sacrifices, did they actually get invited to the Golden Land?
生贄なんてごめんだ。僕と姉さんは生き残る。そして2人で黄金鏡へたどり着く。だから姉さんを第2の晩の生贄になんかさせない。頼むよ姉さん。あの男の指輪を受け取らないで。それを受け取らなければあいつは姉さんを生贄には選ばないと約束してくれた。
それはできないよ。
Yeah, she's going through with it.
今夜の指輪はとても特別なもの。それを受け取らないことは私の心が許さない。
But if she had any sense of hesitation, if we saw any of that in episode 1, which I don't really remember, then this might be, well, Beatrice's explanation if this is her way of telling the story. This is an explanation, I'm going to say a explanation, for, I guess, why she was hesitant.
姉さん、僕たちのせいなんて所詮は仮初めじゃないか。
Aren't all lives a little bit temporary?
本当の人生を始めるために僕たちは黄金鏡へたどり着こう。そして人間を手に入れよう。そうしたらさ、僕も姉さんみたいに恋が知れるかな。
Yeah, you saying that, I think is just trying to assure Shannon a little bit here, because this is something you've never really thought about, or at least something you've definitely suppressed here, Kanun. You using this as like a fucking betting piece, or trying to, you know, persuade her a little bit here, it's, yeah, I don't know.
家具だからって人を泣かせずに済むかな。
カノン君。
僕はもう家具は嫌だ。絶対に人間になってやる。こんな苦しみから絶対に。
It seems like the perfect time for Beatrice to make an appearance. There were tears in Kanon's eyes. By now, Kanon had noticed Shannon hadn't been the only one to know and suffer from the taste of love. He had to. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and Jessica's pitiful face as she tried to smooth things over and stay bright ever since then, had slowly wrought some kind of change on Kanon's heart without him knowing it. Oh, this is gonna be fun and painful in a lot of great ways. Shannon jumped at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Apparently he had called for her repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. When she turned back, Kanon had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody.
はい、ぼんやりしていてすみません。
昼食はカノンに頼んだが、本来は私の次の序列のお前が運ぶべきものだ。ベアトリーチェ様は当家の最高の賓客だ。
Oh, I'm sure she did not care whether it was Kanon or Shannon giving her the, or serving her the lunch.
それ以上の賓客はいない。もう一人の親方様と思い、丁重に頼む。
よろしいですか。くれぐれも粗相のないようにお願いしますよ。
Yeah, yeah.
経験の未熟なあなたに託すのは非常に心苦しいですが、当家のルールとあっては仕方ありません。くれぐれも頼みますよ。
Goda had officially agreed, but he glared at Shannon with an expression that told her he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Even Shannon felt that Goda might as well go himself if he was so desperate to go. But she had considered this one of her responsibilities as one who had been allowed to wear the golden eagle and had to give up. And anyway, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will this be a meeting of gratitude or one of grief? Or else, what? I don't know. Shannon piled the witch's food onto the serving cart and left the kitchen at a slow pace. Honestly, their meeting here can go any way here. It could be as, joyful and, surprisingly, enjoyable in a way and interesting as whenever they were at the beach having tea together, or it could be detrimental now with the information that Shannon has, and I'm sure Beatrice is aware that Kanon had just told her. The person knocking was Kraus. Now, we've heard this song and dance before. Oh, goddamn. I am being summoned for the Helldivers. It's always something, yep, see? I'm being summoned for the Helldivers this time around instead of the Counter-Strike. So we will have to wrap this up here shortly. I should probably go into Do Not Disturb whenever I do my recording sessions. Kinzo screamed across the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus. That is what's going on here. Those are some harsh words, though. Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected. Genji! Kraus gave his head a small shake and then quickly turned his back on the door to the study. He had only come calling to save face in front of his siblings, knowing full well how useless this was. After Genji watched Kraus disappear down the stairs, he called again across the door.
いかがいたしますか?
Nanjo could be seen in the study, because Kinzo had forcefully pestered him into finishing their long-lasting chess game that they had been playing against each other since the early evening. Nanjo had announced as a doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered, so he couldn't refuse if Kinzo demanded that they finish this game while he still lived. Yeah, they better fucking finish it quick. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had randomly pulled out a book on magic that he couldn't understand and was skimming it.
Kinzo-san, 盤面を前に腕を組むだけではいい一手は出ませんぞ。一つ休憩をして頭をリフレッシュしてみるのもいいのではありませんかな。
黙れ。守りはこれで十分か。ビショップやナイトに隙間を突かれはしないか。
Today, Kinzo was focused on maintaining a strong defense. Yeah, don't worry guys, I'm still definitely not learning chess. Normally Kinzo's motto was that offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite.
私も腹が減りました。ここいらで中断しませんか。それに休みなく頭を回転させておりましたから、もう頭がクラクラです。これ以上は私も最善手をさせるとは限り。
それは困る。チェスは互いに常に最善手をささねばならん。
Then it seems like it's time to eat.
そうでない一手は理解に苦しみ、思考を読むゲームを狂わせてしまう。それでは今日を著しく削ぐというものだ。
Kinzo sighed deeply and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess isn't chess without an opponent. If that opponent is tired and wants to suspend the game, there's no getting around it.
確かにチェスの目的は勝利を目指すことで、互いそしてそれを読み合う知的ゲームです。ですが、勝利以外にもう一つ目的があることを金蔵さんはお忘れではありませんかな。
What, annihilating the shit out of your opponent? Oh, suspense here.
なんだと？勝利以外にどんな目的があるというのか。
金蔵さんがそんなこともお忘れとは。チェスを通しですぞ。
Oh, yeah, that is true. Any game like that, definitely.
参ったな。それは確かずいぶん昔に私がお前に言った言葉だったはず。これは参った。
Kinzo, who almost always wore a frown, relaxed his face for once and laughed. Nanjo felt like he had been reunited with a close friend that he hadn't seen in ages.
そういうことです。一本取られたついでにどうです。私と下に降りて食事と行きませんかな。食後にコーヒーと一緒にカスパロフの中盤についての議論でもいかがです。
良い提案だが遠慮する。
Yeah, there's no getting him out of here.
私はもうこの部屋から出られない。ありがとう。
おや、何の礼ですかな。
お前とのチェスの決着はつかなかった。だが、私が忘れていたチェスの目的はどうやら果たせたらしい。それはどうもチェックメイトと同じくらい重要なものであったらしい。
Yeah, I actually don't think they're going to continue their game. I think that's how that went in episode 1, is that they stopped here and that was that.
らしくもない。何の干渉ですかな。
お前が言ったのではないか。私には余命がないと。もう行け。そしてもうこの部屋へ来るな。続きは黄金鏡でやろう。
That's literally it.
いいですが、仕切り直しですぞ。ルークが落ちてしまったのは痛手ですのでな。それでは後ほど。
ああ、後ほどな。黄金鏡か煉獄か。
It'll be somewhere.
あるいは次の世で。
He did not fucking like that one. Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that. And with a motion made smooth by familiarity, he pushed the button on the table that would release the auto lock. Then after looking at Kinzo's back one last time, he left the study. Yeah, that is the last goodbye right there. We know it is. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall.
それでは親方様、これより夕食をお運びいたします。
最後の晩餐になるやもしれぬ。
Oh, it probably is.
味わわねばな。準備を頼む。
かしこまりました。親方様のご準備の方は万端となりましたか。
この部屋を今日まで戸へ旗への結界で厳重に包んだ。
Yeah, one of them we witnessed a little bit ago. Just look at that doorknob.
あれのルーレットが私を選ぼうとも必ずや弾き返す。そして生き残り黄金鏡へたどり着くうちの一人は絶対に私となる。
That I wonder.
私を冥府へ連れ去ろうとする死神どもの来訪をも拒もうぞ。
All right. I think I will end it there because I am definitely still being summoned for the Helldivers. And if you guys have not played Helldivers, I do recommend it. You know, if that is sort of your cup of tea. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. This is all very interesting in ways that I can't fully understand, because this is like a fake story. If episode 1 was supposed to be the real story, this one's a little bit of a fake story. We're getting a little bit more information for sure, you know, that isn't necessarily tampered based off of, you know, Beatrice being, you know, self-inserted into the story, which is beneficial, I think. But it does make me think about, I guess if we do consider magic and Beatrice, what may have happened to Kinzo, he maybe felt that, oh, his barriers have been destroyed by people coming into his study, that he had to flee and go elsewhere, and in doing so, you know, whoever it was, Beatrice or somebody else, got to Kinzo, and that was that. I don't know. Just a little, you know, not really a prediction. I'm just throwing out ideas as to, you know, all the information that we have on hand. I have no fucking idea. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy.